So we do need to check in. And this is where this, coming back to where you were talking about, why is it often in this midlife that we start to have these questions? We have that time. And so we now are questioning, where is my joy? I don't feel joy anymore. And so this is a beautiful time to do that analysis and not live a life of regret.
Welcome to Midlife Unraveled, the podcast that takes you on a journey through the twists and turns of midlife. I'm your host, Anita Gilbert, and I've transitioned from the corporate world of investment banking to become the proud owner of a yoga and Pilates studio. Together, we're going to navigate the exhilarating roller coaster that is midlife. Each episode, we dive deep with a seasoned expert to rediscover and redefine how to live our best during this life-changing period. Join us every Tuesday for new episodes, brimming with wisdom, insights, inspiration, and a laugh along the way. So strap in, because Midlife Unraveled is about to redefine the way you embrace midlife. Subscribe today and take this journey with us. In this delightful episode with Claire Tait, we start by looking at the big five. 5 themes that have emerged from her work with over 50 women in midlife. Far from being woo-woo, it turns out that these are actually grounded in science. And with an upside bonus at the end, I hope you enjoy. Claire, I'm so pleased to welcome you to Midlife Unraveled.
It's lovely to be here, Anita. Thank you for inviting me.
You are very welcome. Now, you are a very experienced holistic kinesiologist, a Reiki master, an EFT practitioner, and if that's not enough, also an awesome yoga instructor.
Yay.
So this episode, we are leaning a little bit into the woo-woo. So this is one that I have been looking forward to for a long, long time. So what I find absolutely fascinating is that you recently analysed your last 50 client sessions. And I understand many of your clients are midlife women like we are.
Yep.
And to see what particular themes came out, and 5 very distinct themes came out. And I think that every single person out there can actually relate to at least one of them. And every single midlife woman, I have to say, can relate to at least one of them.
Yeah.
Can you explain to us what were these themes that came out?
Yeah. Well, can I just go back a few steps?
Absolutely. I've launched right in.
Yeah, it was one of those rabbit hole moments where I'd been reading an article on ChatGPT and how it was becoming incrementally better day by day, as one would expect, right? Because it's learning. Because I want to be clear here. I know what my main issues of my clients are. I didn't need to ask AI. But I was interested in the nuance of AI in deciphering statements. So I didn't put single words in. I put in statements that my clients have said to me. And I wanted to see if ChatGPT could pull the core issue out of those. Right. And actually, it was a little freaky because it popped, and I asked for 5, and it popped those 5 out within 2 seconds of me pressing enter. But those 5 were self-esteem, overwhelm, imposter syndrome, a lack of confidence, and feeling stuck. And, even though you said there's 5 and, most of us could relate to one, I agree with that. But, they're also so intertwined and interchangeable, if you look at them, right? Yeah. Well, I can see that. I'm sure if you sat and looked at those, and we could probably summarize them down further, into one statement or one sentence. And I was thinking about that. I actually should have asked ChatGPT to do it, but I didn't. And I was thinking that one sentence is one that I've heard so many of my clients struggle to say out loud without tears in their eyes. And it's a sentence that could sound like, it's along the lines of, I'm good enough, I'm worthy, I'm enough. And when you look at those, and you look at those 5 issues, that's how I see that intertwined, interchangeable nature.
I feel like that statement or those statements underpin each of those things so clearly. And I feel, even saying that, for people to be able to stand up and say, yes, I am worthy. Yes, to be able to say that in all honesty and without feeling somehow uncomfortable and a bit squirmy in their chair. And it's hard. And why should it be so difficult?
Yeah, why should it be so difficult? Look, that's a huge philosophical discussion that we could have with a glass of red wine to match my lips and my jumper. But look, one thing I'll say is I think humans are fallible. We are imperfectly perfect. And that's probably just part of nature, and that's why we haven't yet ascended and we're not, sitting in nirvana or bliss, right? We're here to learn lessons. But having said that, there's actually a great book it's called The Body Keeps a Score. It's by Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. And this book demonstrates how traumatic experiences get stuck in our bodies. And that trauma, by the way, doesn't need to be what's called big T trauma, which is like natural disasters or a death of a parent. It could be little T trauma, because some people think trauma, that's such a big word, but little T trauma could be something that might sound innocuous or small to someone else, but it's like humiliation or maybe bullying in the workplace or a breakup, but it has a profound effect on that person, right? It's this idea of crisis comparing. We don't crisis compare. But unprocessed trauma then causes our bodies to freeze, right? So you will have heard of, and your listeners will have heard of the, fight, flight, freeze, fawn response. And when we are in any of those responses, it's our nervous system, we then start operating in a world in a way that isn't part of our true nature. And then that's how maybe low self-esteem and low confidence can result.
Well, we can't separate the physical and the mental. We're all connected. Everything connects in. So if something happens to us, we carry those effects physically as well as mentally. And that's what we're seeing. And like you said, little T trauma, it's not, it can be, not getting that job or breaking up with that partner, which other people from the outside looking in think, well, after a few weeks, well, you're over that. You've got over that now. And by all accounts, back to the usual sort of happy, smiley or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's not quite that simple.
It isn't. And that's where I love, my work as a kinesiologist, because, for those that don't know, kinesiology is a form of biofeedback where we access the subconscious to look for the root cause of a blockage, right? So on a surface level, it's very similar to talk therapy, except it's talk therapy plus we are asking your subconscious whether, that is exactly as you say it is. Because on a conscious level, we might say, oh, I just procrastinate all the time. But then on a subconscious level, when I start talking to the body, and we talk to the body via biofeedback or muscle testing, actually beneath that procrastination is something else. So for example, shame. It could be anything. And what I look to do then is work on the shame. And when you work on that, then that then dissipates the procrastination. I've just used examples of procrastination and shame. Those don't necessarily interlink, right?
I'm thinking fear does, though. I'm thinking fear and procrastination.
Oh, absolutely. Having said that as well, we can't always say everything, because we're so all utterly unique. We can't say that fear for you and fear for me will have the same end result. It actually doesn't really work like that. Otherwise, we would have specific protocols for anxiety. Okay, you've got anxiety. This is the protocol you need to follow. Look, there are, of course, general things that we do follow, but actually what I love is looking at the unique energetic pattern of the person, right? So looking at where's that energetic block, so that which is resulting in you not living to your full potential, whatever that full potential to that person is, and why they're always questioning their self-worth, and they're racked by self-doubt, right?
Have these things been going on? So you say you see a client who's in her mid-50s, she's coming to you, low self-esteem, these kind of issues. Now, is this something that's usually been going on with her for a number of years, or is this now coming out as a change from her previous state? Say her previously she was, happy, successful, everything else, and now has there been a change?
Yes and no. So it'll depend on the person. What I think happens and why I think it's highlighted in midlife is for those of us that have had human children, they're probably grown, or they're now, they've got their own lives and we don't have to, do as much for them, right? And we might be coming to a stage in our life where we are reassessing, okay, I've now got this extra time because I'm not directly hugely involved in all this childcare. They start evaluating, work. Oh, am I happy? Am I not happy? And I think this is all happening because we realize we're now in the autumn of our lives, right? Although I like to say spring, once you've hit menopause, it's your second spring. I love that from traditional Chinese medicine. But Western society will say we're in the autumn of our lives. And then we realize, actually, I've got however many years left. Well, we don't know how many, but, you start to reevaluate, am I truly happy? And you've got more time to think about it because you've got more time in your life. And that's probably where the questionings start, So they potentially could have felt that all before, but they were so busy with mothering, with career, maybe caring for others, etc. So it's a hard thing to say if it was always like that. What I will say, I think as well is nowadays social media is just this comparisonitis, right? That's something we've got to be really careful of. When I was, say 20 years ago, we didn't have this in your face all the time. Are you good enough? Do you have this? Do you have that? Do you weigh this? Do you, have this lifestyle? So that could also be, one of the causes of why we are looking at ourselves.
I imagine that would have a very direct impact on self-esteem, especially, I would think, and lack of confidence. And we always, I think, we think of social media as being something that affects mainly, our kids or people in their, young people in their 20s. But it's actually just as impactful for people in their midlife as well, isn't it? We suddenly look around and think, oh my gosh, everybody else has got it together. Why don't I? They're all successful. They've all done this. They've all done that. And then suddenly it's just like, well, why haven't I done those things? And it could be that coming to that point of reassessment that, well, actually, I feel like I haven't fulfilled what I hoped I would do.
Yeah, I hear you. I would also be interested, and of course, I just had another thought, the social media, it's this ageism as well. We live in a society that really prefers youth. And so that's another reason the women in our sort of age do struggle. Because even if you look at adverts for, I don't know, an anti-aging cream, there's no way that person is in their 60s. Right?
Yeah, they've got 16-year-olds advertising anti-aging cream.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing, as we age and we've got this more time to think, I think another thing is watching our self-talk, right? Because our thoughts will determine how we move through the world. So if we've got this habitual, I'm not good enough, society's showing potentially we're not good enough, we need to find the source of that and really work to release it and unlearn those destructive patterns, right? And we've got to be kind whilst we do all of this, because rewiring of something that we've potentially had 20, 30 years takes time and patience. But it's definitely, worth doing.
And how do we do that? How do we start changing that self-talk? Is it saying that thing to the mirror to ourselves every morning that we feel good and we're confident, or is there more to that?
There are so many ways to look at it, and depending on the client, I would offer different things. Yes, having an anchor is a great tool. So for example, I can remember when I went through a really hard time. I didn't know it was an anchor at the time. I hadn't studied kinesiology, but it was a statement. It was a quote by Anaïs Nin, and it was, and the day came when the risk to remain tight in the bud was more painful than the risk to blossom. And I can't tell you how that resonated with me so much. And we've got to get to a point where we say, okay, enough is enough. I am so pained in this bud, but I know that there's so much more for me. I know I'm worthy. I know I'm enough. And actually, I'm now going to say enough is enough. So I think the first thing is to recognize, we'll get to a point where we say, that's it. I now need to do something about it. And one of the first steps I say, which is quite unusual, actually, I have an 11-point checklist that I have for people that are feeling stuck. And number one is actually surrender to that. It's having that self-awareness and then honoring those emotions. So not being hard, have that. This is another thing. And I'm just going off on a tangent here.
Yeah, that's fine.
I hear, you think of how we talk to ourselves, coming back to how we talk to ourselves. If our friend spoke like that to themselves, we would immediately pull them up on it, but we don't do that to ourselves. So can we surrender to it and honor those emotions, right? That's really energy 101, so what we resist persists. So we've got to stop resisting it. So it's that acknowledgement, right?
And that's huge. I think that's huge, actually, just to acknowledge that that's happening and almost to stop fighting it. So it's like, okay, this is happening. Let's lean into it. Let's start to unravel that. But by actually, I almost feel like there's a weight off your shoulders by then saying, oh, okay, this is happening.
Exactly.
Let's admit it. And I feel like you kind of have to do that before you can actually even take any forward steps.
Yep. And it's quite a beautiful place to be in. It's quite spacious when you can do it with honesty and authenticity. And so once you've done that, you can then say, okay, and then clarify, what is it that you truly want? Check in on your values, because again, you've probably had 20, 30 years of doing stuff for a lot of other people and not yourself, right? So really getting clear on, what is it? What is your why? Solidifying your why, right? And then I'd say, do you need to, change your perspective? Because sometimes we will say things like, I'm not enough, but it might be, if we can reframe that to be, I'm not feeling enough at this moment, right?
Yeah.
So that's that idea of checking in on your languaging. It's really important energetically. I would also look at responsibility, check where you are responsible for it. Like we can't change anything outside of ourselves, right? So we need to get clear where we're responsible for these things and how much, what we can do to better those, right? So there's a great saying, I don't know who said it, maybe it's not a saying, maybe it's something I read. The degree to which we resist reality is the degree to which we suffer. Actually, I think Buddha might have said that.
Oh.
Yeah, the degree to which we resist reality is the degree to which we suffer. We need to really get real on what are we responsible for there, right?
I love that. That's brilliant. And it's like, bring it back to the people around you. Like, you cannot control the way other people behave. You can't control, the way your kids are behaving. You can't control it. And you're not responsible for that.
No.
I feel that's important to acknowledge, that you do the best that you can do. But, if things are falling, if people are doing things and acting in a way that isn't positive or isn't the way you'd hope, you can't actually control that.
No. It all comes back to you.
But we take it on, don't we? I think as especially if we've been mothers, you always take that on yourself. You take it onto your own shoulders, realizing that you can't change it.
And actually, with you say that, a lot of us have been mothers and been doing, and I say, can you stop the doing and start being? And that's why I love yin yoga so much. We just look to if I was a dictator, seriously, everyone would be doing meditation, mindfulness, journaling, nature immersion, all of the yin things, so that they can have this internal focus of just being, and not just this constant doing, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason these things have been around for thousands of years.
Exactly right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, how was this phrased? It was phrased so beautifully. Actually, I put it in one of my newsletters. I'm hoping I'm going to get this right. The portal to every next level is through the parts of yourself that you avoid. So
okay.
if we're always doing, then we're always avoiding.
Yeah.
But when we do those things of mindfulness, meditation, etc., it is then just a being, and then we can start to look and see what patterns are we constantly revisiting. Where is our responsibility around this? How is what's our level of resilience?
And opening up those new pathways.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Just those new pathways that we didn't think were possible for us, that we didn't think we were capable of doing. Those are the things we need to be looking at.
Yeah. And I think the thing there, those new pathways, like anything, it takes time. Some people, every now and again, you'll meet someone that wants a magic pill. Well, there ain't no magic pill.
Yeah.
It's taken you a long time to develop all of these limiting beliefs, these sabotaging behaviours. It's not going to take you as long, hopefully, not with me. I mean, to unravel those, but you do need time to unpack them. It's a little bit of, it's like looking at a Rubik's Cube and saying, okay, I'm going to look at this face and then I'll turn it over and look at that face, so that we can cover everything off, look at the root cause, and then rebuild from there. But it's to have that patience. Yeah. And actually not, why would you want to just scream to the finish line? Because life is a journey, as corny as that sounds. The things that we get really easily often don't celebrate often as much.
That's
sometimes when you've climbed that mountain and you get to the top, wow, it feels phenomenal, rather than you just being given that mountain. Maybe you helicoptered to the top. Can you embrace that journey and know that that's just part of this next stage of our life, this season of our life?
Exactly. And I feel like also I feel like in a lot of ways we're conditioned to finding that quick fix. For instance, with our physical health, if you have a headache, take a paracetamol and the headache's gone. So we want that magic pill answer. We want that quick fix, but it's not always that easy. We don't just suddenly, say something, change our self-talk overnight and then everything's going to change. It doesn't work like that. And I feel like that's a lot of people are resistant to exploring things like this, because they do want that quick fix. And if they don't have that quick fix, then it's kind of like, well, I'm not interested then.
Yeah.
And those areas will remain stuck, will remain feeling overwhelmed and with low self-esteem and low confidence and that sort of thing.
Yeah. And look, our world is responsible for that. Society is responsible, because society gives you instant gratification with so much, right?
Yeah.
But with self-development and self-worth, the longer you've lived, the more stuff you've packed on top inside this brain. And, so we need to look at those and unpack those beautifully and fold them up and put them away nicely and clear them, so that, they don't reappear.
Yeah. So what else can we do? What else can we start to do to make those small inroads into changing, the big five? I'll call them the big five.
Yeah. I think it all comes back to, if I have to choose some things, I would say all comes back to self-love, right? Practicing self-love. And, that sounds, what is self-love? But it can be, again, it's, checking your boundaries are solid. So this, you have permission to say no and stand up for yourself. For me, self-love is time in nature, creating a sanctuary in your home, stopping that comparisonitis, as I said earlier. Gratitude practice. If you've come to any of my yoga classes, you'll know I'll often end with breath work, just breathing in gratitude and sending it to our bodies, right?
Yeah.
Prioritizing sleep. People forget about, speaking about a magic pill, I have these 5 what I call columns that that I like everyone to, all of my clients, we cover those off. We're never all great on them, right? But we always need to be aware of them. And that is restorative sleep, whole food, lots of pure, clean water, moving your body every day. And then the 5th, we all know those 4 and we all could give ourselves points on them. And sometimes we're better at some areas and etc. But the 5th one, which is where most of my clients fall flat, is having something that gives you purpose, something that gives you joy, something that makes you want to get out of bed in the morning. And it can be simple things. It could be looking after your grandchild. It could be a volunteer job. It could be your work. Right?
Yeah.
So for me, it's my work. And you do want that joy, because that's a vibration, right? So when you introduced at the beginning, this is a little bit more woo-woo, but I will say to you, woo-woo is based in science, Yeah. I mean, yes, it's right on the edge, but quantum, all of these things that we talk about are quantum physics. And you know what? In 100 years' time, that's just going to be standard stuff. Joy is a vibration. It's one of the highest vibrations. And we want to, because we're all energy, everything is made of energy. We want to vibrate at a specific frequency. So we want to vibrate at the frequency of joy in order to feel joy. So we can't just be blobbing around the world, just, not sleeping, eating bad things and feeling lost, right? Because ultimately you will have some type of dis-ease from that.
Yeah.
So we do need to check in. And this is where this, coming back to where you were talking about, why is it often in this midlife that we start to have these questions? We have that time. And so we now are questioning, where is my joy? I don't feel joy anymore. And so this is a beautiful time to do that analysis and not live a life of regret.
And it is maybe a lack of purpose at this point. What the purpose that we had 15, 10, 20 years ago is no longer relevant. And it's, that period of our lives maybe has passed. So what is our purpose now? And by not having our purpose, it then underpins all those other key things that I always think seem, exercising every day, eating well, sleeping. I always think those things to a lot of people feel a bit too basic. Like, we've heard it all before. It's not new. It's, it's boring. Okay, we know we should do that. We're not so good at it. But what else is there? What else? Like, we're constantly seeking the answer, the one magic pill, the one thing we can actually do to make far-reaching changes. But what you're saying is that it's not about that.
No, and actually,
it's about the boring stuff.
It really, really is. I think if we could cover those 5 things off, you could probably cure 99% of all illness. Remember, most illness starts as inflammation. Most inflammation comes from stress. So really, we've got to eliminate stress. So how do you eliminate stress? You do cover those 5 things off. I know people don't want to hear it. They want that quick fix, that instant gratification.
Exactly. So if we don't know what our purpose is, where do we go about finding our purpose? Like, if you're a woman in her midlife and you have got to this stage of life, the kids have left home, perhaps you either were in a career or you've just kind of had jobs that revolved, and your focus was more on the kids, raising the children. Suddenly they've left, the job is unfulfilling, and you're thinking, well, I don't know what my purpose is. How do you suggest somebody deals with that? Where do they start?
The first thing I would say is, what is your passion? What lights you up? What is something that potentially you do as a hobby that you can maybe create something from, right? I look to, yoga kinesiology is my main job, right? I teach yoga part-time, as you know.
Yeah.
But for me, that is, I mean, kinesiology is also my passion. I'm just lucky enough to have found. But yoga, I could see, was something I found late in life. And I developed something from it. So there's a perfect example. It was something I came to, and I loved it that much. I then decided, okay, that's it. I'm going to do my teacher training, and and it expanded from there. I would say that that's the best place to start. What lights you up? And then if you're struggling with what lights you up, then there's probably more layers that need to be, picked, and we need to look at those. And that's where I would come in, because the fact that you've lost passion for everything probably means that there's some sadness and there's some depression. So then we need to look at that first. And, that comes, I always look at my clients, kinesiology has its basis in traditional Chinese medicine. So I look at them from the perspective of fire, earth, metal, water, and wood. And, sadness and depression sits on the lung meridian, which is the metal element. So we would start working there. And you work with the other elements to bolster, the sadness and the depression, to move out of it. Because I think one should be able to find something you're interested in, and if you can't, then there's an underlying issue that we need to look at.
So what you're saying, that it is there, the passion is there, that maybe it's sort of sunk under the layers of life, depression, sadness, different events along the way, and that's kind of it's still there. It's still there for us to find, but it's not. Maybe we have to chip away a little bit to actually get there.
Exactly right.
I think one way also, and I've used this in different scenarios, but is to think about what we enjoyed as children. I feel like when we look at ourselves as kids, we look at how, I think our core parts of our nature often come out. And things that we enjoy doing naturally, like what did you enjoy as a child? What did you enjoy as a teenager? I use this a lot with exercise, because if people are like, well, I want to start exercising, I don't know what to do. Well, what did you enjoy as a child? If you enjoyed doing, enjoyed dance, maybe you should do a bar class, or you enjoyed running, maybe get back to running or get back to walking or something that's reasonable. But I feel often we can go back into that, think of ourselves as what we enjoyed doing as kids, what we did, what we, often as children, we pick up lots of different things. We drop a lot of things along the way, and then some things stick. And then maybe from the mid-teens, maybe we continue with those into our 20s. But I think to look back on that time of our lives and just to, I don't know, get a few ideas.
Yeah. And the other thing, yin activity is in, a quieter, creative activity will often create that spaciousness as well for us to think of something, right? Any creative activity will create space for more creative mind stuff. And that's what you're wanting to drop in. You're wanting, what is that next thing for me? And that harks back to stop all the doing and just be. And when you're being, often something will just come to you and you'll think, wow, I'd love to do a little bit more about that. I'm going to go and research that at the library. And then something can spark from there.
Yeah, I love that. I so love that, because I feel like we spend a lot of our lives, like you said, doing and taking things in. We're listening to, we're listening to TV, radio, where we're on the whole time. We've got Facebook or Instagram. We're scrolling. It's we're totally always engrossed and always taking in information, and actually to have that space to think and to not be taking things in. I think it goes back to when people say you always have your best ideas in the shower, because you actually have a chance for your brain to sort of not switch off, but for your brain to sort of just stop and be able to rest, and then the ideas come in.
Yeah, exactly. So take that time, take that, weekend away, that afternoon, have a regular, what's that book from, can't think of it, Morning Pages. It'll come to The Artist's Way. I mean, that's specific. It's around art, but you can use it for anything. And that's one of the things in there is having an afternoon where you can, in this example, go and look at art, etc., to inspire you. But, if you can create, whenever your time off is, maybe it's just 2 hours, but devote those 2 hours to something creative for you. And it could be dot painting. It could be, whatever that is.
Yeah.
But yeah, creating that space.
Even if it means, I think, going for a walk, but leave the phone at home.
Exactly. Don't listen to this podcast on the walk.
No, don't tell them that.
I will tell them that because I have their interests at heart. They can listen to us while they cook.
Exactly. That's perfect. See, another creative, something else creative.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I think sometimes it's lovely to go for a walk and you can you can come out of your headphone world and take in what's around you, like take in, the sounds that you're hearing, taking in the smells, like taking in, look at the beautiful tree, look at the flowers. I know it sounds a bit lame, but I think it's so important.
It
go,
is.
Go and walk down the road and get a coffee and don't take your phone with you and just stand there and, maybe spark up a conversation with the person next to you.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
these kind of little interactions, I feel like we miss out on when we're always on.
Yeah, exactly. I go on walks, and I've got in my street, I have a family of magpies, and I talk to them, and I promise you, Anita, they talk back to me. They seriously do. They now come and they'll walk alongside me and we have a good chat. And
That's so cute.
I adore them.
One day, I'm sure one day if you're a bit late for your walk, they're like, well, where is she? We're here.
Yeah, exactly.
I've
fallen in love with them so much, I even bought a pair of magpie earrings. I should have worn them.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
Love that. Love that. So, Claire, can you give us 3 takeaways, 3 key takeaways that we can actually put into practice? I think we've got one just there, taking space.
Yeah, exactly. One of the big things I'm so big on is letting go. Just constantly letting go. What we resist persists. It's a process. But I'm always interested in, and I'll bring this into my kinesiology sessions, I'll bring it into yoga constantly. With your next exhale, what else can you strip away? And is it maybe a thought that isn't serving you? So constantly stripping. And that, by the way, I mean in your home as well. I think it's so important to live in a decluttered environment. A decluttered environment allows energy to flow. It creates that spaciousness for thought to happen. When you're in a cluttered house, there's no way that you're going to be able to just be.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm always interested in what more can I let go? What isn't serving me? So that would be number one. Probably I'd be looking at self-sabotaging. Can you, every time you see yourself sabotage, can you stop and show yourself that compassion that you would show, your friends, so that you can start retraining those, old, worn out, frankly unhelpful paths, right? It would be all those, as we said, that spaciousness, all those yin practices that we know so well that people don't want to hear, but nature immersion, so forest bathing or ocean swims, meditation, mindfulness, those things. And I think as well for me, because I'm quite grounded and driven, and I also say there needs to be some type of action, so don't live a life of regret. Start getting interested in your internal world and how it's translating in your outer world, so that, you don't have that. You're not lying on your deathbed thinking, oh, I wish I had done that, etc. It's, and maybe it's a remembering, it's a remembering of who said this. Someone said this, someone very clever said this. It's a remembering of who you were before the world told you who you should be. Can you come back to that?
Yeah.
So that you don't live a life of regret where it's just a constant yang on, I'm going to do this, this, and this.
Yeah. I love that.
Is that 3? I think it's 3.
I think we had a few more thrown in, but that's all good.
Okay. You see, I'm giving you extras.
We got bonus. Bonus.
Yeah. What do some of the takeaway places call it? Do you want to not up level? What do you know?
Upsize. So we've upsized.
I've upsized your tips. You're not getting an upsized Coke, but you're getting an upsized tip.
This is much better than the Coke.
100%. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Claire. And can you tell everybody where can they find you?
Really easy. So Claire Tait, and that's Tait, not Tate. That would be my website, clairetait.com.au. And then on socials, it's Claire Tait kinesiologist, and that's both Facebook and Instagram. And if you don't know how to spell kinesiologist, you'll have to just ask Google.
We'll have it in the show notes. We'll have links there.
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you so much. What a fabulous conversation. I really, really enjoyed it. So many great takeaways for people actually to put into practice and to really make those little changes that can have a big impact and help us live better.
Small incremental changes.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So we live better. It sounds really lame. We want to live better every day, but we do.
Yeah.
We really do. And we really deserve it.
Yeah. And it's possible.
Absolutely. I feel like that's important. Could be added to our upsizing. Actually, change is possible. You don't have to, just because you are feeling stuck now or with low confidence, it doesn't have to be the way. It doesn't have to always be like this. You can actually make those changes.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it can feel like an impossible task. But I think the thing there too is remember that you're not alone, that this too shall pass. Yeah. And that maybe tomorrow or the next day you will feel, okay, I can take that baby step. Yeah. And, there will always be people that will come into your life that will help you take that next step.
Exactly. And being open to those opportunities as well, because sometimes that happens where we least suspect it.
Yeah.
And, it's just around the corner for you all. Love that. Thank you, Claire.
My pleasure, Anita.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please like, share and subscribe so you can stay updated with more from Midlife Unraveled. To see more Midlife Unraveled, follow us at midlifeunraveled.com or at Midlife Unraveled on Facebook and Instagram. We'll see you soon.